I'm recording the meeting for those who cannot attend or who might have to drop off. So our panel tonight, I'm so excited. We've got Dean Mazza, Professor Harper Ho, we've got Brianna Hanshu from admissions, and then we've got 3 law students, all of whom have great sage advice for you. And what we'll do, the way this will work, is I've got questions that I will ask each. And so that'll take a little bit of time. And then the hope is that we have time for you to ask questions of our panelists. And the best way to do that is to submit your question through the chat function so that Bree can sort of monitor that. So if you have a question that comes up, we will take those questions up at the end. So let's start with our esteemed panelist, Dean Stephen Mazza. Dean Mazza joined KU Law School in 1989 and then became dean in 2011. So I think, Dean Mazza, that means you're celebrating your 10-year anniversary of being dean at KU?
I am.
Nice. Congrats.
Almost 10 years. I started on April Fool's Day of 2011.
Very cool, very cool. So Dean Mazza earned his law degree at the University of Alabama and then went further and went to New York University to get his LLM. And I will let him tell you what an LLM is. In fact, Dean Mazza, I'm not even sure I actually know what it stands for, but I know it has to do with taxes and tax law. And so after Dean Mazza earned his law degree, got his LLM, he went and practiced at an Atlanta firm and then decided to become a professor. So he teaches tax classes at the law school. So welcome, Dean Mazza. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next, our next panelist is Professor Virginia Harper Ho. Professor Harper Ho is an associate dean, and I actually have to look at my notes for this, an associate dean for international and comparative law. Professor Harper Ho earned her law degree at Harvard Law School, and in her days of practice, she practiced corporate and securities litigation, or not litigation, actually, I misspoke there, securities law. There's a reason why I have Professor Harper Ho here with us tonight. So Professor Harper Ho now teaches at the law school, and she teaches business and transactional courses. So thank you, Professor Harper Ho, for being here. I know that you have some cool insights to offer these students. We also have with us Brianna Hanshu, who is the Director of Recruiting and Pre-Law Programming and is part of the admissions department. And so I'm going to give Brianna a second to kind of tell what she does, because I don't know if all of you know that we actually have somebody on campus who is a wonderful potential resource. So Brianna, you want to tell a little bit more about kind of what you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So I work at the law school. I graduated from KU Law in 2015. So I've gone through the process myself relatively recently. And I do pre-law programming, and I'm here to answer any of your pre-law questions as well. So double package. So I do the admission side for KU Law, but as an admissions representative, I know what schools are looking for. So you can come talk to me about your personal statement. And then if you do end up applying to KU Law, I would probably end up recusing myself from reviewing your application, but that's kind of how that works, okay? So don't feel awkward about coming to me if you want to go to Harvard or Alabama. I am here to help you in your law school path. Do you want me to drop the links now or later?
Let's see, it might come up naturally. So yeah. All right, thank you, Bree. So we also have 3 law students who actually probably can provide the most important information that you might be looking for. And I'd like them to just tell a little bit about themselves. So Savannah, can you pipe in and tell us quickly about yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah Lucas. I am a 1L, so I'm a first-year law student. And I am from Leavenworth, Kansas, and I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Alabama.
There you go. Did you know that with Dean Mazza and all that? All right, thank you, Savannah.
I
How
did know
about,
that before she was admitted.
gotcha.
Yeah.
You know you're the dean, of course, you know everything. All right, Andrew Arbuckle.
Hey everyone, my name's Andrew Arbuckle. I'm from Mulvane, Kansas. I'm a 2L. I study international trade and finance and business and commercial law. So some transactional stuff. I get to spend a lot of time with Professor Harper Ho. I did my undergrad at K-State, so kind of made the transition when I came to law school, you could say.
Okay, we'll let you stay. No, I'm just kidding, Andrew. Just kidding. If it was Mizzou, maybe. No, just kidding. All right, Lexi Christopher.
Yep. Hey guys, I'm Lexi. I am a 2L. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I got my undergrad from CU Boulder in Colorado.
Thank you. All right, well, let's get started. Let's start with Dean Mazza. First of all, what is an LLM? Okay, that's sort of an aside. But really my question in addition is, so you're the dean and you oversee all aspects of admission at KU Law School. So as the dean, what are you looking for in a law student who's applying to KU?
Sure. So just to get the LLM thing out of the way, it's a Master's of Law degree. It's kind of weird. When you get your law degree, you technically get a doctoral degree. You get a Juris Doctor. So if you wanted to call yourself doctor afterwards, you know, it's technically you could do that. Not many folks actually do. And then the next highest degree is a master's degree, which seems kind of out of order. But if you do want to specialize, particularly in an area like tax, it's an additional degree you may want to get. Most people don't do that. And it is certainly not necessary. So, but to the more important question of what are we looking for when we think about the makeup of our class? There are really two basic things that we're looking for. First of all, we do need some indication of academic prowess on your part. And that you're going to be prepared for the rigor associated with getting a law degree. So that we're going to look at your LSAT score, and you may have questions about that, and I'll leave that to others to answer about preparing for the LSAT and all of that kind of good stuff. We're going to look at your transcript, see what classes you took. We're going to look at your cumulative undergraduate GPA. And although that's going to give us a sense of where you are academically. And then beyond that, we want to make sure that when you come to Green Hall, you're someone who is interested in making a difference once you become a lawyer. So we're going to look at your personal statement. We're going to look at your resume. We're going to look at your work history. We're going to look at any leadership positions that you may have completed that are going to speak to who you are outside of sort of the pure academic aspect of what you've done while you're at KU. So, again, bear that in mind. The more leadership opportunities that you can complete, work experience is really something that we would also look at. So those are the two basic things: academics, and just make sure that you're in it to win it, and you have some larger goal beyond maybe just making a whole lot of money.
And there's nothing wrong with making a good income, but absolutely, for sure, use your law degree for good. So thank you. Thank you, Dean Mazza. Professor Harper Ho, some of my students on this call have heard me talk about the fact that there are different types of attorneys. And usually when we think about an attorney, we think about an attorney who's in the courtroom, who's a litigator, right? Who does litigation. But there's a whole other world of being an attorney that might not have anything to do with litigation. And for some of the students on the call who might enjoy the intellectual aspect of figuring stuff out, might not ever want to see a courtroom. So you did transactional law, you teach transactional law. Can you speak to that? And kind of like, what does that look like?
Thanks, Amy. I really appreciate that question because unlike many of you, I was not as focused on law school at the undergraduate, so I would probably never have come to a session like this. And so one of my first big questions at the very beginning of law school, when I'd already gotten accepted, I was sitting in my first week of classes, and suddenly it dawned on me that everyone seemed to be talking about this kind of divide in terms of future career paths between litigation and non-litigation, or litigation and transactional. And I was mystified because clearly I had not done my homework or watched enough movies or something. But anyway, I also had in mind, litigation and courtroom activity. But the reason that I came to law school is because I wanted to do something internationally. And I didn't quite know what that was, but I wasn't really sure if I was kind of a courtroom attorney, but I thought, well, good enough. It's good enough to get me here, but then what? And so when I was sitting in class and realized there's this term I'm hearing, or I'm seeing that there's this kind of these tracks, what is that about? So that is an excellent question. And the first thing I want to say is that there aren't as clear of tracks as I thought there was. Just because you start out interested in one thing doesn't mean you can't switch. And that's true even early in your career. And so you don't have to have it all figured out. But what I will say is that generally speaking, a transactional lawyer is someone who helps business clients do transactions or deals or get things done. So you are helping clients toward the goal, often of buying and selling a company, investing in another country, purchasing an asset like a factory or some widgets, intellectual property for that matter, entrepreneurship, drafting contracts. There's a lot of skills that go into being a business lawyer that don't involve an adversarial context where you're resolving a dispute. So anything before a dispute arises is the world of transactional law. And that's a pretty big, scope for you to think about. And so again, to go back to my earlier point, there's not necessarily as clear of tracks because a lot of the skills that I think of when I think of what is a business lawyer or what is a transactional lawyer, taking out the dispute resolution piece of it and looking at everything else, a lot of those skills and a lot of the training that we provide in classes that we might consider transactional or business classes really do prepare you well also, for example, for working in a major nonprofit organization. That's a corporation, it's a business organization, and they do a lot of really cool things that draw on the business skill set. And very little of what you might do working with an organization like that might be dispute resolution or advocacy, although it might be. Similarly, you might find yourself prepared for a career in a government agency. So there's a lot of things that places you can go with the training that we provide in law school in the courses that are not dispute resolution oriented. And I think maybe that's one way to think about what we do as business lawyers who consider ourselves transactional attorneys. And so my own background, I worked in a lot of different law firms of all shapes and sizes. I worked in kind of big New York law firms. I practiced in Hong Kong for a bit and in Los Angeles. And then I also worked in Indianapolis for a while with a firm that had 2 offices in China, which was getting me my kind of international fix. But I was representing companies again in foreign investment, buying and selling companies overseas, or advising on regulatory compliance issues, how to obey the law here and abroad, that kind of thing. Representing companies who were startups and were getting investment from funds of investors and wanting to put their money into that new venture. So those are the types of things that we are often involved in as transactional lawyers, just to give you a flavor. But it's a huge, wide universe, and there's a lot to think about there.
Thank you, Professor Harper-Ho, because there's so many mysteries around that. Okay, so let's talk to one of our law students. Savannah, you're a 1L, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how did you prepare for the LSAT and what would you do differently knowing now what you know?
Absolutely. So one resource I want to point you all to is Khan Academy. If you haven't already used it, it's a free resource and it's, I talk about it often. It's intuitive. They use AI to determine, areas that you need help on, and it kind of learns as you do about the areas that you need the most work. It also enables you to set study plans, which I used, and I did about an hour a day for a few months. And then it also allows you to take full-length practice tests. So that's one resource that's free that I would highly recommend. And it looks like Bree just dropped the link in the chat. So check it out if you haven't already. And then if I could have done one more thing to prepare for the LSAT, I would have taken more full-length practice tests. They tell you you really cannot take enough full-length practice tests. I think I only took 1 or 2 before I sat for it. And you just cannot replicate those conditions any other way of sitting there and grinding through all of the sections for the amount of time that it is. So there you go.
Savannah, I appreciate that because I have so many students who come back after taking the LSAT just blown away how different it was with being timed, and now with the flex and all that happens. But that's really, really, really good advice. Andrew and Lexi, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't have much to add, but the best thing that worked for me was taking the practice tests. I would primarily just drill sections, and you can buy the old tests that have been administered in course packs, and I think that's what helped me the most. And I guess you gave us some prompts. So something I regret about studying for the LSAT is trying to do too much at once. You really just got to take it one step at a time. Kind of figure out what sections you think are really stumping you, and which ones you think you're okay with. For me, like the logic games, it's mechanical. You can teach yourself how to do that. And then I didn't spend enough time doing that, but I spent a lot of time on the reading comprehension part. And I think I hit a point of diminishing returns with that. So it's individual, but really got to allocate your time and resources.
Lexi, anything to add?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they covered it pretty good. My piece of advice would just be to know how you learn and kind of make sure that you are preparing yourself that way. Like, I am not the best test taker, and I knew that going in. And so I knew I was going to need a little bit of extra help. And so I actually took some classes, and I think that really helped me in the way that I learn. So.
You mean you took undergraduate classes that helped?
No, like a prep class. Yep. Yep.
I just want to make sure. I was like, if there's undergrad classes, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, and so Bree, I'm going to turn to you. I probably should have there. I know that there are some on this call who might be hearing of the LSAT for the first time. So the LSAT is the law school admissions test that everyone has to take in order to be admitted to law school. So Bree, can you sort of tell students who might just kind of be thinking about it, the timing, like when a student should take their LSAT to be admitted the next year or whenever? Can you just sort of walk through a typical ideal timeline?
Sure. So if you're looking to try to get admitted, and I will use the 2022 admission cycle because that is the easiest, right? So that would mean you are starting law school in summer of 2022, which would be May, or in fall of 22, which is August. Okay. So you would start, what I try to tell students is, obviously there are 2 academic sections to your application. There is the LSAT, but there's also your GPA. So while you are still in school, you need to be very focused on your GPA. It's difficult to study for your LSAT and also be taking a bunch of classes at the same time. I find that some students get a little burnt out on doing both of those things. So keep that in mind when you're planning your schedule. So what I tell students is try to see how they're doing along their second semester of whatever year they're in. And if their classes are going really well, then you can kind of start studying for the LSAT through Khan Academy is what I tell students to start with because it is free. There is a June LSAT and they have released so many more dates, but June is a great LSAT to take if you're trying to go for the next year. LSAC has updated everyone to say that all of their tests will be available online. So they've been doing the LSAT Flex for a while. They have put out a...
Bree, I know that there are some students here who don't even know what LSAC is. Can you?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's the Law School Admissions Council that basically is the hub for everything. So if you end up applying to law school, you will work with the Law School Admissions Council for any school that you want to apply to. They oversee it all. They help you make sure that all your transcripts get to the right schools. They help you get your letters of recommendation. They are the ones that administer the law school admissions test, which is the LSAT. So LSAC with the C is a great resource. I highly encourage you to spend time on their website and just kind of get to know the tests there because they're the ones that are putting it on, right? So they are the #1 source of information for you. But they have recently announced that they are going to continue to do online LSAT tests through June of 2022. Okay, so if you have an old LSAT test prep book from before COVID-19, it is going to be different than what the test they are giving to you will look like now. Okay, because they have changed some of the sections. So I highly encourage, and I will drop it in the chat when it goes to someone else is talking, the site where you can look and see what the new LSAT looks like, because now it is 4 sections. The LSAT Flex was 3 sections. So they have been kind of changing it around a lot, and you will just have to keep yourself informed because it does change. Hopefully it won't change between now and 2022 anymore. So I don't know if that helps answer the question, but that's lsac.com is the best resource for you if you are trying to figure out what the test actually looks like.
Thank you, Bree. And I encourage anybody who hasn't, this LSAC with a C, I encourage you, if you haven't hopped on, go ahead and create yourself an account. It doesn't mean you're committed to go into law school, right? But then you have access to all of the really, really good information. Also, there is a pre-law club on campus that actually Bree and I are co-advisors to, the Phi Alpha Delta, and there are every 2 weeks we have meetings, and our last meeting was about, well, actually 2 meetings ago was about LSAT prep. So I encourage you to join those meetings to learn because information is hard to get when you're applying to law school.
Professor Castle, one thing I forgot to mention, you do have to sign up for the LSAT about 6 weeks before you take it. So it is not something that you can decide on the day of the test that you're gonna just log in and start taking it. I highly recommend you spend a lot of time studying for it before you take it, but keep in mind you do have to register for it about 6 weeks before, and LSAC is not the type of organization that lets you register a minute late, okay? So keep that in mind. And then you'll get your scores back. Now they're saying it's about 3 weeks, which when it was a pencil and paper test, it was much longer. So you do get the benefit of that.
And Bree, if I can just add, because you and I have talked about this for the students on the call, do not take your LSAT for the very first time to get your baseline score. No. You have to prep for that LSAT. Do not take your LSAT and, risk, getting a very low score, because you'll like, yeah, it's not good. Right, Bree? And there are some students who do that. They think I'm just going to go in and get my baseline score. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bree is confirming. Okay, awesome. All right, back to Dean Mazza. Dean Mazza, finances can be hard during law school. So some law students would probably like to work during law school. And what do you recommend? And is it really even possible to work a job as a law student, particularly as a first-year law student?
So we strongly discourage our students from working during the first year of law school. So we have a rule for all 3 years that you're not permitted to work more than 20 hours per week. But particularly in the first year, our strong suggestion is that you don't work at all. Now, we've got some positions in the law library where basically you sit at the front desk and make sure people are not, removing computers, so you can spend your time studying and getting paid for it. So that would be fine. But trying to carry on a full or a part-time job outside of law school in the first year is not a great plan. This is going to be a different type of experience than compared with anything that you've had up to this point in your educational career. And it really does take quite a bit of time just to sort of figure out what's going on and why are these professors standing up in front of class and not telling me anything, but just asking me a bunch of questions. Well, after a certain period of time, you begin to get a sense of what the professor is trying to accomplish by sort of pushing you to do this analysis for yourself. But it does take a while to figure out what that's all about. And it is a pretty intense experience, and you're going to spend a lot of time reading. So that first year, best to just focus up, get your life in order before you start. And then maybe in your second and third year, there may be some time to do some part-time work. We encourage our faculty to hire research assistants. So in your second and third year, you may also have an opportunity to work with one of your professors. And that would be perfectly fine. That would be a good experience for you.
Awesome. And at the law school, they call them research assistants. Everywhere else, they call them TAs, right? Teaching assistants. So it's the same thing, but you can get paid to help a professor. So really good advice. Thank you, Dean Mazza. Professor Harper-Ho, again, for some of those students who might be wondering what sorts of opportunities might be available to law students who are on that on the transactional track. What are there clinics? What sorts of opportunities are available at KU?
Great, that's another excellent question, and I'm pleased to say that we have a lot to offer to students who either think they might want to go in this direction or at least just want to try it out. The first thing to know is that you have your entire first year to figure out law school before you need to make any of these choices, because the classes that I'm going to be talking about are all upper level classes, and our first year classes are a set curriculum. And so some of those courses are very good preparation for the upper level transactional or business classes. And in particular, contracts, that's one of your first year classes, will be extremely helpful. But you can't take any of the classes I'm about to advertise to you until you've been through the first year. So you'll have some time to figure out, did I like the first year contracts class, or did I really like the torts class? And I won't go into explain what torts is, but you can figure that out in first year law school. Anyway, the gateway course at the law school for all of our upper level business classes, or at least most of them, is a class called Business Organizations, and it just introduces you to what is a business, what are the flavors of business, what is the law that applies to them. Another one of our foundational classes that's good preparation for being a business lawyer is the tax sequence. So taking federal income tax and kind of beginning to build in that direction. There's a number of classes that do have kind of a sequence to them. Beyond that, after you've taken those preliminary classes in even the second semester of your second year, and certainly in your third year, we strongly encourage you to take classes in this space, like, for example, mergers and acquisitions. So that's a big title, but it's basically buying and selling companies. What's the law of that? And there's a lot of skills classes that also we think are important to business lawyers. And so we have classes in contract drafting, for example, where you're actually breaking apart an agreement and figuring out what goes into writing one, but what goes into reading one, which is very useful skill, I think, even if you end up deciding you want to be a courtroom lawyer. Fair disclosure, not many litigators even spend a lot of time in the courtroom. So I'll just want to let you know that, like all that kind of movie stuff, that's a very tiny percentage because it's expensive and you can resolve disputes in a whole bunch of different ways. But anyway, I'm speaking out of my field now. Other upper level classes that we offer that we're very excited about are available to you in your third year and kind of enable you to pull together a lot of other things that you've learned in law school and then apply it to a simulated client environment. And so one of the things that we offer in the upper level, well, there's a couple of things I'll talk about. One is a class I'm teaching right now called Deals, where we kind of unpack the life of a transaction and take you kind of from start to finish, and you do negotiation, you do client meetings, you learn how to talk to opposing counsel, you learn how you do some drafting. So you're practicing a lot of the things that you've done previously. We also have some competitions in the law school. A lot of those are geared toward future courtroom lawyers or advocates, and we call those moot court competitions. And there's not just one, there's a lot of them. And I encourage you to think about them or explore them when you're asking questions to law students about what's available in law school. It's a really great experience. But on the business side, you know, if we're not in court, what do we offer you? Well, we have something called transactional law competition. And basically, we give you the opportunity to train and then be involved in a simulated deal negotiation where the win is, did you present the most convincing argument and did you draft the best agreement and can you defend it when the other side is pushing back? Did you get the best deal for your client? So it's a real world type of simulation, but it's a competition. And this year we had students, we had 2 teams go to UCLA and compete. We had a single competitor at Baylor in a competition that's really fun called The Closer. It happens in like 24 hours. It's absolutely insane. And then we have another team that's competing in a Denver transactional law competition, I think this week or next. So a lot of great opportunities, but again, foundational courses are available to prepare you for those kind of things. I will drop into the chat a link to the part of the law school's webpage, which is curriculum for specific areas of study. And so we have a major pull down tab under academics and then areas of study. And so you can look at all other areas of study as well. I neglected to mention another course very close to my heart, International Commerce and Investment. It has an add-on component where you're doing like simulated client representation work, like writing agreements or, you know, drafting an argument to a regulatory agency that is involved in international business. So all kinds of cool things you can do. But anyway, you can find the full list of classes in the business and commercial area or in the international trade and finance area for that matter on our website. So I'll go ahead and put the business and commercial one in there. We also have several certificate programs I think Andrew mentioned a moment ago. And so on those same tabs, you can see detailed information about what are the classes you would take in these various areas of specialization. And so again, in the transactional space, I would point you to the business and commercial law side, as well as to the international commerce and investment side. And then if you go to that business and commerce link and you're on the curriculum tab, there is a gray box there. We could do a better job about highlighting this. I want to put like flashing lights around it, but if you click on the gray box, there are 2 PDFs there and they actually show you the course sequence from second year all the way to third year. And this is what we offer to our law students in terms of like planning courses, but you'll see like, what do you take before you take this? And you'll see some of these upper level transactional law courses mentioned there as well. So I'll put a couple of those links into the chat for you.
Thank you so much, Professor Harper-Ho. And I asked Professor Harper-Ho to sort of represent the transactional side. And there are lots of opportunities if you want to do litigation at KU Law School. So I don't mean to put that aside, but Professor Harper-Ho and Professor Webb have done a great job of creating a robust transactional curriculum at KU. All right, Lexi, law student Lexi. What surprised you the most about law school, and what do you wish you would have done to prepare for law school?
Yeah, that's a good question. To be honest, I don't know if there is a lot to do to prepare to go to law school once you are in. I would say take the summer and do the fun things that you want to do before you start getting into the work of things, because it is a lot of work and it does take dedication. And so I would say just relax, read things for fun, and at KU, they have this boot camp that you go through before you start, so that will prepare you for classes, but I think that's the best piece of advice that I have.
Andrew, what about you? Were you surprised at what law school had to throw at you?
I was, I think, more pleasantly surprised. It's once you get over the learning curve of figuring out what you're doing your first few weeks of law school, it's a lot more relaxed than you kind of imagine. It's not as cutthroat as you can psych yourself out as it being. In fact, I wish I would have reached out to some of my classmates sooner than I did, because it's a good community at KU Law. It's comfortable, at least I am.
Very good. And Savannah, since you're the newest at this, what freaked you out about law school, if anything?
I don't want to say nothing freaked me out, but I'm kind of over the hump that Andrew was talking about. So you kind of block it out, right? You're not thinking about it too much anymore. But I will say, just take everything as it comes at you with lots and lots and lots of grace, right? You're going to slip up. You're going to freak out on a cold call, or, you're going to have an assignment or a reading that you forgot to do, or something that you forgot for the day. It's always going to happen. It happens to everyone, but just embrace it with as much grace as you have. Keep a great attitude, and just always remember your why. I think Dean Terranova always says that. Just always remember your why. So that's what I've got for you.
So hold on, I haven't heard this, Savannah. What do you mean? Always remember your why. What like why you're there?
Mm-hmm. What brought you to law school? If it is, like Dean Mazza was talking about, public service, or serving your community, or if it's about you're the first member of your family to be in grad school, or you're doing this to prove to yourself that you can do it. Just always remember your why, because it will get you through your hardest days.
Nice words of wisdom, Savannah. Thank you. Bree, there might be some students on this call who might have totally messed up their GPA as a freshman because they were out partying, right? Or those who might have a stellar GPA but are not good test takers and bomb the LSAT. I don't want to say bomb, don't score as well as they wanted. So so how does the admissions look at that? Can you kind of, if you're looking at one of those situations, how do you deal with that as an admissions person?
So there's a phrase in law school that you will hear about 100 times once you start. It's called the totality of the circumstances. And so when we review applications, we look at the totality of your application. We do not just go down a list and say, so-and-so has this GPA, admit, so-and-so has this GPA, deny. So we look at your whole application. So that's going to include your letters of recommendation. That's going to include your personal statement, any addendums you attach to your application. And there are a few. KU allows you to attach an addendum. We have 3 listed as options, but honestly, you could attach anything as an addendum probably, and we would accept it. So the 3 we have listed are a diversity statement, a Why Kansas statement, and then a character and fitness statement that you would be required to attach. But many students attach something along the lines of, hey, I had no idea I wanted to go to law school, and in freshman year, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Well, turns out that I am not good at medical things, and I am not great at hard science. So I adjusted and made this adjustment to my course schedule. And as you can see, as life went along, my GPA increased, I made positive changes. With test taking, the common one that can assist is, hey, I also did terrible on the SAT or the ACT, but look at my college GPA. I did fantastic in college. I just am not great with standardized tests. Or if there's a specific reason why your test went poorly on that day, which we have gotten due to the pandemic, more of these because people are taking it on their home computer right? So if something occurred with your internet, anything that you want to, anything you would call your parent or a loved one and be like, this terrible thing happened, go ahead and tell us. We will not know unless you tell us. And you can tell us by typing out a paragraph, double spaced, and attaching it to your application and just letting us know, like, this went poorly, but this is what I've done to fix it. And that's kind of for everything. That's kind of how we look at it. So
I was going to say that's really helpful. And I just want to, again, because I know some undergrads on this call don't even know what's going to potentially be required. So when you apply to law school, most law schools require you to draft a personal statement, 2 pages about ish, double space. And so what Bree's talking about is there are opportunities. This addendum, quote, addendum that she's referring to would be an additional statement to explain away some potential warts in your past, or to exemplify certain great things that you've done. So when Bree's talking about an addendum, that's an additional writing, or I should say a writing in addition to your 2-page personal statement that you're going to have to convince the law school why you belong in law school and why you'd be a good law student. Now, Bree, while I have you here, LSAT scores. Is it looked upon unfavorably to retake your LSAT if you get a bad score? Back in my day, I took the LSAT, 30 years ago, and it was sort of frowned upon to retake your LSAT if you don't get the score you want. So what happens if a student gets below the score they really had hoped for?
So we encourage students to retake the LSAT at least twice. If you got your score back, let's say you get your score back and it is a 175, which the LSAT scores range from 120 to 180, right? So if you're at 175, you're like right up there. If you're getting that back, you probably don't need to take it again if you're trying to apply to KU Law, but you can. But if you get a score back and it is below the median of the school that you want to go to, so there's a median LSAT score for every single school. If it is below the median of the school that you want to go to, that is your dream school, I would encourage you to keep studying and take it again. Most schools, and you will have to check with your dream school, will only look at your top score, and that would be the score that they take into consideration. Now they can see all your prior scores. So if you're jumping from like a 142 to a 175, that will raise some red flags. The largest point jump I've ever seen is 11, and an 11-point jump. And it was explained, I went in cold. I did not study for the LSAT, but do not recommend that again. So take the LSAT once. If you are below the median of your dream school, then take it again. That is the advice. 3 times is okay. 4 is too, I would not keep going, right? So 3 times is the max that we would try to encourage students to take while you're looking at it. That's why it's so important to go in prepared to take it the first time, right? And then 2 times is pretty standard. It's honestly at this point very surprising to only see 1, unless it is, again, far above the median of KU Law. So.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Bree. Okay, so at this point, I would like to open it up for any student questions you might have. And as I just monitored the chat, I did see a question that I can speak to, that I will. So as I'm speaking to this question, if you have any questions for our esteemed panelists, please put them in the chat function, because if you have a question, probably somebody else has a question. So what I saw in the chat, what about if I have children? how much harder does it make? So not to be sexist, but in the real world, if you're a woman and you want to have children, it's harder. It's harder to stay in the game. I had children while I was practicing law. And I'm not even sure about Dean Mazza and Professor Harper Ho, so I don't mean to be speaking out of turn, but I did have children. I had children when I started law school. I had a baby while I was practicing law. And so here's the thing. You can do it. You can. There will be times, mother, father, partner, whatever. There will be times where it will feel like you can't. You got this many hours to bill, or but it can be done. And that whole finding the work-life balance, it's always a challenge. Whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a ditch digger, right? I mean, your time is always like the most precious thing. So to the point of, can you have kids and continue to be an attorney? I did a couple of times. And so it can be done, but it is not without its challenges. And I will say it's just usually harder on the mom, right? Like society expects that the mom is usually going to spend more time. So it's harder, but it absolutely can be done. I don't know, Professor Harper Ho, do you have children?
I do. I now have an 18-year-old. It's very scary. She was like in second grade when we moved here. But anyway, I also have a 15-year-old son, and my daughter was born when I was a year out of law school. And I clerked, she was actually an infant when I was clerking for a federal judge. So that's a whole nother story. So, and then my son was born while I was working in deals practice, doing international transactional work at a large kind of what we call big law firm in the Midwest, which I did for a number of years. So I think I am very similar to many of my colleagues who are faculty at the law school in that many of us have families or partners or spouses, and all of you have other responsibilities in addition to your day job as a student. And so I really second what Professor Castle said, that, you know, this is not a question that's unique to law school. And one thing that I can say is that many of the faculty who will be teaching you have wrestled with those very same questions. And we have on occasion had events in the law school to, you know, directly kind of sit around tables and talk about how does one move forward in a career and as a law student around these very issues. And we're very proud at KU Law of the number of what we call non-traditional students. In other words, people who aren't just 24 or 21 and coming like kind of straight through the academic progression, and it's not uncommon at KU Law, so that's something that we're really proud of. But I see a lot of other great questions in the chat as well.
And I just posted in the chat, we actually have a blog series on one of my friends who became pregnant with her third child while in law school. So that's a very good resource to look at. I posted it in the chat.
Awesome, awesome. And while we still have a few minutes for questions, which I want to get to, Bree, I want to make sure that we announce and get in the chat a couple of things that might be really beneficial to undergrads.
Yes, so the first I will pop in is a award application. The deadline is March 26th, so you still have time to fill that out, but basically Leverage Law Group LLC is sponsoring awards to pay the LSAT registration fee for KU students. They are trying to continue their commitment to opening doors for law candidates of diverse and underrepresented backgrounds, and KU Law is helping facilitate that. So I've posted that application in the chat. Please fill it out and turn it in so we can consider you. The second thing is through Access Lex, which is a nonprofit. We work with them to help prepare some of our students for the financial considerations of law school. And they have a diversity pipeline program application as well that was launched about 2 days ago. So I would encourage you to check that out too. It's an incredible program, and it is not, there are about 250 spots, I believe. So I've dropped that in the chat as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So Andrew, we have a question of what does an average day, I'm assuming in a law school life, look like? What does a day in your life look like?
Well, for me right now, it's a little different than average. Basically, all the classes about experiential work that Professor Harper has said I'm in right now. So my day started at, I got to the law school about 7:30 a.m. for contract drafting. We had our first assignment due. And then this is different right now, but as a 1L, I guess, you spend a lot of time with your small section. Each incoming class is divided into, I think, 5 sections of about 20 students apiece. And you'll have every class together with them. And really, your time between classes, you'll take to read. It's really just really a lot of reading and getting ready for class. That's, you kind of have to fill it out as you go. But yeah, I don't know if any other student ambassadors have anything to add on that, but the last year at least has been very unconventional.
Well, I think that's a great point, Andrew, so everybody in their first year pretty much does the same curriculum. For example, Professor Harper Ho, who went to Harvard, probably took about the same classes and read the same cases that I did, and I went to KU for law school, right? So that first year is very uniform, but then your second and third year, you get to do all kinds of cool things, right? So thank you for speaking to that. So Savannah, you're the 1L. Oh, go ahead.
I worked in Los Angeles this summer, and people I worked with studied at UCLA Law School, and you really do the exact same thing. And I think I was more prepared for real life work, going to KU than they were at UCLA.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk. All right, Savannah, what's your life like?
Absolutely. So Andrew and I both dropped our emails in the chat. If you guys feel like you have any lingering questions after the call, please feel free to email us. I think Lexi will probably drop hers in there as well. But if she just did, feel free to email us anytime. So 1L year, the biggest thing I want to talk about is our lawyering classes. And so those are going to be our legal research and writing classes. You'll take your doctrinal classes that are the classes that everyone takes, contracts, torts, property, etc. But the lawyering classes at KU are really unique to KU, and they're awesome. So all of our lawyering professors are really great professors, and they're going to work to teach you how to write like a lawyer and teach you how to research. And it's going to feel like it stings at first, but you will meet with that professor. I think we have that class. I have it 3 times a week this semester and had it 2 times a week last semester. So you get plenty of class time with them. They're always available, and they're really going to hone those skills that Andrew was talking about. Like, he felt he was better prepared compared to the law students at UCLA. I think that lawyering class really helps to do that for us. And, it is that experience that you need from a professor telling you how to write something that is going to make you a better writer and a better lawyer on the other end of law school. So
Awesome. Thank you, Savannah. And we are getting close to our time. We are going to end at 7:30. But I wanted to address one more question that Professor Harper Ho sort of responded to, but I think it's really important. So the question, I believe, was how important, I can't find the question now, how important it is, like what law school you choose, right? So how important is it what law school you choose? And as Professor Harper Ho, if you look in the chat, she recommended going to the best law school that you can whatever your grades and your LSAT score will allow you. And I could not agree more with you, Professor Harper Ho. Like, if you get into your dream school, there's a lot of factors, of course, you know, cost and moving, all that. But at the end of the day, in your law career, where you go to law school, the highest you can get will help you. It really will. I mean, I have literally experienced I've literally experienced it. So I don't know, Professor Harper Ho, you want to expand on that? You answered the chat, but I seriously couldn't agree with you more to go for the highest ranked, if that's, you know, I don't know.
The dean's going to yell at me if I say rankings matter, because we really believe that they are, you know, there's a lot to unpack there. And I would just also say that it's not that finances are immaterial or personal circumstances are immaterial. And I've had students that have made very wise and important choices factoring in those things. And I myself took those things into consideration in looking at law schools. But I would say this to any applicant to a graduate school, which is, if this is your terminal degree, it's your terminal degree. So you want to put your all into it. And that's not only in the application process and the selection process, but in the process of doing it as well. And again, as the dean's own experience suggests, there are other degree possibilities that are specialized beyond the JD. And sometimes those are opportunities to pursue studies at a different institution as well. But I do recommend just putting your best foot out there. And the other thing is alumni network, and KU Law's got an amazing alumni network, but that's another thing that kind of comes along with choosing a law school. But I know the dean has much more to say on that point. So.
Well, I'm not sure that I disagree about choosing the best law school as you get into, but you have to choose the best law school for you. So in my own case, I was born and raised in the state of Alabama. And when I was applying to law school, I applied to the University of Alabama, and I applied to, you know, a bunch of more highly ranked law schools. And thankfully I got into all of these law schools, and I ultimately chose my state public law school because based upon the research that I did, based upon the cost, which for me and my family was a big deal, and based upon what my career plans were, my state public law school was the best. By far, it was the best choice. For me, I walked away with no debt, no loans, no nothing. I got the same job opportunities as my friends who went to Vanderbilt and Duke and some of these other higher ranked schools. So I just feel like, you know, just choose the best school for you based upon what your aspirations are, based upon your finances. Geography plays a role as well. So yeah, I don't think we disagree.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Dean Mazza. All right, so it is 6:30. We've been here for an hour, and thank you for all who attended. I hope you learned a lot. Hope you got some information. You probably, those undergrads in attendance probably have a whole bunch of more questions. So you have a lot of information to chew on and to work on. So you have these resources, right? You have these law students have given you their email address if you want to ask questions, and Bree over at the law school will help you with admissions. Come and talk to me, kind of thing. So hopefully you found this program informational, and hopefully what I really hope is that it inspires you to apply to law school, because you know, I got my law degree. I actually got it at KU, again, rock chalk. You know, best decision of my life. So if you're, again, dipping the toe in the water and you want more resources, please reach out to me or Bree or the law students who are on the call. And in our rock chalk community, we will provide you support, resources, anything you need to make it to that end goal, whether it's KU Law or whether it's another law school. we want you to be successful. And KU always looks good when their undergrads are successful, no matter where they go. So we are here to support you in the process of applying and hopefully getting accepted to law school. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and I'll end the meeting. This is recorded. We'll figure out how to get the recording for those who couldn't attend. We'll figure out how to get access to the recording. I'll post it for my students. I'll post the recording to my undergraduate classes, Con Law and B Law, so you'll have access to it. So thank you, Dean Mazza, Professor Harper Ho, Bree, Andrew, Lexi, Savannah. Really, really good insights from all different perspectives. So thank you for taking the time to be on the call tonight. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Bye, everyone.